My name is Alex Caserta. I recently retired from a 34-year career as a visual arts instructor in order to embark on a new adventure. As a photographer, my goal is to reveal historical information while shedding new light on the people and places that sustain our rich cultural heritage. This is an opportunity for us to discover the farms, food, and flavors of our beautiful state. This is a time for us to explore the diverse wonders in our own backyard.
This is Harvesting Rhode Island.
Great.
Gee, unison.
You are third generation?
Third generation, yes.
Third generation. Henry's grandfather came over from the Azores back in the late 1800s to establish a farm here in Rhode Island. And they started off growing
Vegetables, potatoes, sugar beets.
And I know at one time your grandfather owned property on the Saconnet River overlooking the water.
That was on the Narragansett Bay side. And it was my father that had it. He bought that farm. It was 264 acres, if I'm not mistaken. And in 1941, right after Pearl Harbor, I guess it was, in December, they came and they took the land by eminent domain. So he had to leave there. He went from 264 acres to about 30 acres. That's all this farm was. So he raised potatoes, but he also had to start a business, which he started selling fertilizer, seed potatoes, insecticides, and equipment, tractors. That was all the way up until he died in '64. He started the nursery in 1959, and he passed away in '64. And I took over. The other two brothers didn't want anything to do with the nursery, so I took it over at that point.
I know that you worked for the city of Portsmouth doing mechanical work while you were still operating the farm?
Yes, when my father passed away and I took over the nursery, it was still in its juvenile state. He had just started it in '59, so it really wasn't, I didn't have the equipment and the fertilizer and the seed. I just had the nursery, and it wasn't quite enough to sustain. At that point I had 4 children anyway, so I had to get a job. So I worked for them 5 days a week, and every other daylight hour I worked here until I got this big enough. I worked there for 10 years when I got this finally where I could make a living off of it. And at that time I had 5 children. I came back in, God, I don't know, 77, 78, somewhere in there.
And of course, all your experience working as a mechanic, now I see that you're working on a lot of the equipment that you own. So that must certainly be a big savings,
yes,
having you.
Yes, I started learning with my father when he had we were his mechanics when he was selling farm equipment, tractors and whatnot. Then I worked with the town as a mechanic and heavy equipment operator for 10 years. Then I came back here and I've been working on these. I started with 2 tractors, and I think we got 16 now. And I ran it until 3 years ago, and then I turned it over to my 2 children, 2 of them that were interested in the nursery.
Yeah, I know Steve and Jean both went to college, but decided to come back to the nursery and make a go of it and keep it sustainable.
Hopefully. There were 6 children I had, and only 2 really interested, although I did send all 6 to college through this farm, but they're out there now working.
There's 6 of us in our family, and my mom's father was a nurseryman. My father's father was a nurseryman. As a child, 8 years old, you're stuck on a tractor. They'd put pieces of 2x4 on the clutch so that you could, drive the tractor, or you'd weed, or you'd put burlap down for the guys to bag the trees, and you just got involved very young. And it was just, we didn't do many after-school sports or after-school activities. We had a job. Plus, we grew up without electricity, so we also had, a different lifestyle there. So it was something that was very personal and dear to me, this lifestyle. I enjoy canning vegetables and, and being raised off the land. And so
maybe you could explain how it was that you grew up without having electricity.
Sure. Well, my dad at the time, he worked part-time at the town hall and part-time at the nursery. And when my parents decided to go down to Lancaster, Pennsylvania to look at a tractor, when they saw how the Amish lived down there, they decided to come back up here and figured raising a large family, and they were young themselves. They were in their early 20s and had 5 kids. They said, well, this would be a better way to save money and have a better lifestyle. So I remember my dad coming back and cutting the cord off the TV and getting rid of all the electronics that we had as children and replacing, our stove with a wood-burning stove, our refrigerator with a ice box, and our lights with kerosene lanterns. And then we started making our own shampoo and making our own soap and canning our own vegetables. And we've always raised our own cows and pigs and chickens, and that's just how we lived. We did have a little electricity in the basement to store our meat and our vegetables and make ice for the summer, but a lot of work at the time. I didn't appreciate it as much as I do today. I didn't have cable TV or any of that stuff, and I remember going to school one time and people were doing that Nanu Nanu from Mork and Mindy, and I had no clue what they were talking about because I had never seen TV before, at that point in my life. And we are a large family, so we are all very, very close. And because we didn't have the electricity, we were all able to get an art or a craft that we did. My brother Stephen composed his first song when he was 9 years old on the piano. He's a very talented piano player. I sang and did art. My sister was an artist. My other brother did harmonica. We all had something that we did, and it kept us busy at night. It wasn't like we had no time to do anything. We were always busy between trying to sustain the farm and trying to sustain our household. There was very little time for play. So it was a different way of living, but it was definitely something that I don't regret at all.
And wasn't there a story about a microwave?
Oh, my freshman year in college, my roommate had a microwave, and I had no clue what a microwave was. I had never seen one, and she put some macaroni and cheese in there and said she could cook macaroni and cheese in like 5 minutes. I was like, what? You don't have to make the pasta, you don't have to make the cheese, you don't have to do all that stuff. So it was kind of an interesting experience. My eyes were like bugging out, going, what is going on here? What is this new contraption that's in my life? As a young woman going to college, I wanted to get away from that because that's the rebelliousness of a teenager, So once I went to college and I got my degree in accounting, and I was, I wanted to go to the office and every day. And then the day I graduated, reality sets in, and it's like, no, I really didn't want to change what I did. I enjoyed doing it. There was safety and peace and serenity here that really encouraged me to make that decision, because my dad has asked each one of us as we graduate, you offered us all a partnership. Do we want to be a partner? And we could either move on with our career or stay here. So at 22, it was like I said before, it's the balance of indoor or outdoor, and of course I chose outdoor. So and I can use my degree in accounting in my business. So it's not something that went to waste. It's an important asset to have to understand how to run a business, because anybody can grow a plant, but to be able to sell it and be productive and be profitable is a whole different situation.
Well, I don't think a lot of people who live in the state of Rhode Island realize what a big industry the nursery farmers have.
Most of our product actually goes out of state. There's very little that stays in the state, so we're being able to bring income from out of the other states into Rhode Island. There's a large amount of income that comes from the green industry in the state of Rhode Island, so it is thriving. It's still doing well, but that could go away very quickly if we don't watch it. With organizations like RINLA and RINLE and other, the Farm Bureau and DEM all on our side, it really makes a big difference. It really helps us move forward and to stay connected to the open space and the land that we do have here in the state of Rhode Island. There's a lot of land in Rhode Island that is still farmed, but they're going away. We used to have 8 nurseries on this island, and I think we're down to 5. So 3 of them have already gone. Family's very, very important to us. We're very, very close. All of us are, and even though we're all over the state, we still manage to get together and rehash some of those old stories of the things that we used to do and the trouble we used to get into and the fun. We had 60-acre playground. We were able to do a lot of fun and a lot of bad, but it was definitely harmless.
Are there any special plants or shrubs that you grow compared to other nurseries?
We do a tremendous amount with rhododendrons, boxwoods. In fact, One of the rhododendrons my son Steve developed, and he has a patent on it, and that's doing quite well.
Steve told me that he named it after his grandmother.
Yes,
Is that true?
yes, she just passed away about a month ago. She was 106, but it was named after her.
And this particular rhododendron variety sells across the country now?
Yes, some of the people are out in California, in the Midwest, that grow it, that pay the patent on it.
And what do we call it? What do you call the
What's an Amy?
the name of it?
Amy Cotta.
Amy Cotta.
Yeah. That's quite a
It's
plant.
a nice way to be remembered.
Yes.
I'd like to welcome you to Hoogendorn Nurseries, and we're thrilled to have you here at this time. My brother Victor and I have been here our entire lives, actually. My father started this nursery in 1925. He was an immigrant, came from Boskoop, Holland, which is a nursery center in Holland, and in 1921. And he came to New Jersey, worked at Seabrook Farms for a couple of years, and then he worked for Barnes Brothers Nursery in Connecticut for another couple of years, and then he arrived in Middletown, Rhode Island, and he started this nursery in 1925.
1925. That's great.
So that's 89 years ago.
Wow.
So it was pretty neat to have him as a dad. We learned a lot from him.
So did your father get his experience before he came over here?
My father, was a propagator in Holland, and that was almost unheard of in those years. I mean, he grew roses and stuff like that when he first came here. And he went through the war, the Depression. He went through a lot, and nursery stock wasn't that popular at the time. Right. And I mean, I don't really know how he did it, but he did. He had determination.
Once he came over here, how much land did he have when he first started out?
Just 10 acres right here, from here up and from here across.
And now how many acres do we have?
60.
60 acres.
Mhm.
And how many greenhouses?
About 60.
Yeah.
About 60 greenhouses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
It's amazing to see the large variety.
well, actually, that's our strongest point. Like at Hoogendorn Nurseries here, we do have a really large variety of material, and we supply the landscapers, in this area and outside of this area somewhat. But a lot of plant material is used on this island, actually. That's what we depend on, really.
You sell mostly to wholesalers?
Wholesalers, yeah.
We sell a lot, into Massachusetts, Connecticut, not as much, but somewhat. And even into New York, somewhat.
I don't think people realize how long it takes to bring a plant, to the point where it's a finished product. I know you were showing me a field earlier where some of the cuttings were only about this big. And how long will it take to bring that to a finished product? How many years?
Well, depending on what the finished product is, it's going to take, possibly 10, 12 years to bring that cutting to a finished product. It depends on what size you sell,
What variety.
Variety.
and but like we have plants in containers that take less time, and we do sell a lot of those. Usually they're cheaper than ball and burlap stock, bigger stock.
I'm assuming that the types of products that you have in all of these greenhouses here have something to do with supply and demand, what people are looking for, and how do you gauge that?
Well,
That's hard.
Just luck.
Some of it is.
it's funny
not.
how that is. It never used to be like that. You would go up 10% in this product or that product and grow a little bit of less of this or that, but it's not like that anymore. Something that they want this year, they may not even want next year.
Next year.
So things have really changed in this business, and you just kind of have to roll with the punches, and to find out where the demand is, actually, because you know, they don't put that on a piece of paper anywhere that I know of.
Right,
So,
and do you do a lot of that demand in terms of going to the trade shows when people are taking orders? You'll get a rough idea what people are looking for the summer?
we
And-
try, you
Yeah.
know, we try to do that, and like I say, I try and find new suppliers, like whenever possible. Like found a really great supplier this year,
Oh.
and you know, so yeah, you always have to keep your eyes and ears open, and you know, and really hope for the best. But you do have to keep your eyes and ears open all the time to find out the trends, like in this business. But you never really know. Anybody that says they know, that's a lot of baloney, I think.
Yeah,
You know.
I mean, you have a lot of products right now. I mean, driving around here, it's incredible. Will most of these sell by the end of the fall?
I would hope so, but I doubt it.
doubt
You
it.
know, I mean, it's always that way. You know,
Some will, some won't.
Yeah.
you have too much of this or not enough of that.
Mhm.
But so far, you know, this year it's been like some things you know, that I sold. Really, I couldn't believe that I sold, and that's what I'm saying. You never really know, you know, what you're gonna sell actually.
sell.
You know, that's the problem. Like, so you try and have a good variety, like I say,
Yeah.
and hope for the best, really. But I mean, you're not gonna. Another thing that used to be done, people would grow thousands of one kind of plant, thousands,
Mhm.
because it was popular. Well, guess what? Everybody else grew the same thing.
So it
Then,
changed.
then after a while,
Surplus.
and after a while, such a surplus, they become
Yeah.
worthless.
Yes.
So, you know, we grow a wide variety, but we don't have really thousands of anything. So, and that's the way, you know, we hope to, you know, continue or whatever.
Have the two of you thought about retirement at all? And if so, is there anybody in the family that you think might want to take over? Or are you hoping to find somebody from the outside who might come in?
That's what we're hoping. You know, that someone, I mean, we don't really have anybody in the family
That could take it over.
that could take it over or would be interested in taking it over, you know, but we do hope that we meet this person that might want to take it over and continue on.
on with it.
So,
Do you advertise something like that?
No,
Nursery
no.
for sale, just word of mouth?
just word of mouth.
Yeah.
Word of mouth.
So, I don't see anybody coming into this business like younger people.
Young and working
like,
their way up.
You know, very seldom, like, you know, very seldom are there people. I mean, there used to be people that in this business that would, you know, work like we
Work
did.
your way up.
Yeah.
We did when we were young. I mean, very few people, maybe almost none.
I'm Bruce Vanicek. I'm the owner of Rhode Island Nurseries, and I'm the fourth generation to run this nursery.
How far out do you sell your products in the country?
Well, we actually we ship as far west as Wisconsin, and historically we've gone down to St. Louis. We'll go down to Baltimore. Our primary market is around Boston, but back in the 50s when suburbanization came, there was a lot of nurseries on the East Coast, and my grandfather used to travel to Chicago and take him 2 weeks to get out there by train, and he'd stay there for a week and take 2 weeks to come back. And so we still have some very old connections. There's a lot of family businesses in the industry, you know. So we have actually customers that our oldest customer is basically 1927.
Wow.
Still currently doing business with.
Bruce, maybe you can give me an idea of the family history and how the nursery got started years ago?
Sure. My great-grandfather came over from Czechoslovakia. He was a gardener for nobility over there, and he landed in New York and grew some orchids in New York for a while, then moved up to Newport and basically started servicing the mansions down in downtown Newport, which at that time were summer homes. And so he would travel back and forth to Czechoslovakia, bringing plants back with him. And eventually he bought some land and built a greenhouse of which he would house the indoor plants because at that time the mansions didn't have heat because they were just summer homes. So he would store the summer plants, the indoor plants, for the mansion owners. And one thing led to another. He started growing some plants and planting some plants, and it's grown from there.
Now, did he bring plants over from Czechoslovakia?
Yeah, he would bring plants over from Czechoslovakia by boat back then in 1895. Long trip back and forth, and so then in early 1918, 1920, the Quarantine Act went into place, which basically stopped him from bringing plant material back and forth from Czechoslovakia. So he was forced to become a propagator. So that's when he had to start growing things from seed and cuttings and grafting, and then that's where the business grew from there as well. That's how we started growing more than just providing.
How did you get involved in the business?
I grew up in it, and always loved being outside, and there's nothing like the smell of freshly tilled earth.
Yeah.
So it's in my blood, really. So it's been good.
Now, do you have a certain variety that you must work with on a regular basis in terms of products?
It's evolving, but we grow woody ornamentals designed for landscape trade mostly. So it's outdoor plants that people put around their landscapes or commercial jobs, and our primary source or primary customers, rewholesalers, and then we also sell to landscapers and retailers that'll sell our product again. A lot of times it takes us 6, 8, 10 years to grow a plant. When I decide to stop growing a plant, I'm still looking at it for another 10 years.
Okay, so Bruce, is there anyone in your family who propagated a woody ornamental that has now, left the state and it's being sold across country?
Yeah, absolutely. My grandfather, the plant right behind us is Jean Vanicek, which is a plant my grandfather found. He also found Taxus densiformis and Taxus niger, which are two varieties of ornamental yews, YEW. They're evergreens, very common in the landscape. And Taxus densiformis, to this day, he found them in the 1940s, and to this day it's still the most popular yew sold. And my brother, he actually found Acer Rhode Island Red, which is a very fancy Japanese maple.
I noticed that you have some workers.
Well, we're in our springtime now. It's the week before Mother's Day, so we're at the very peak of our season. Right now we're running probably 45 guys. Yeah, that machine you saw is called a tree spade. Very common in the industry as a mechanical way to get plants out of the ground. Plants are grown both in containers and in the field, right in the soil. So we're a field grower, and we also grow plants in containers. Each way of growing has different advantages and disadvantages. So we do a little bit both based on what's best for the variety and type of plant that we're growing and who we want to sell it to. So the machine actually, you can see it taking the root ball out of the soil, and the guys were wrapping burlap around it, which is biodegradable, and then wrapping sisal twine to tie it up, which is biodegradable, and then we pick it up and then we ship it to our customers from there.
Yeah, I'm assuming that once you pull the plants out of the ground, then you have a lack of soil there. How do you deal with that?
Well, surprisingly, we've been working this ground for decades and decades, so now we actually spread compost on the fields, of which this is another benefit to both ourselves and to the community. We take in all the yard waste from the city of Newport and the town of Middletown, and also landscapers and horse farms, and we compost it all up, and then we spread that compost back on our fields to basically, naturally go back and then get the fertility back into the soil and rework the soil so it's alive.
You've been doing this business for a while now, the nursery business. Where do you see it going in terms of a future?
As far as the future, I think, as people talk about the issues facing us every day, whether it be energy or health, plants and the environment that we live in is really important. And I think I think you're seeing that more and more. People are very aware of that. They know the value of plants. Primarily people usually just plant for aesthetics, but now, as far as pollution control in cities, plants take the particulates out of the air. Energy, if certain trees, all trees actually provide shade, which actually helps reduce energy consumption from air conditioning. So there's, along with the the overall feeling of well-being and the standard of living that you provide, and people that are happier. I mean, there's studies that have been done, you know, patients that have hospital windows that are looking outside over, you know, at a landscape actually improve and you know, recover quicker than those that don't, which is kind of strange, but that's, you know, they've found it to be true. There's a growing number, certainly of new farmers and young farmers in the industry, both the nursery industry and regular farming. They are relatively small. They have a relatively small impact now. I mean, that's where they start. That's where everybody starts. You start small. You just can't come in and open up a big old operation. So, you know, all the ones that have started, I mean, they're going to grow and they're going to get bigger. And people that are looking for locally sourced food and, you know, want to know where their food comes from. I mean, that's all part of that movement, and people are enjoying that living and knowing, you know, working land and working with the animals, and it's really great to see.
That's very encouraging.
Absolutely.
And do you think there'll be a fifth generation?
I have a daughter now. We started looking at colleges, and she wants to come into business, so we started looking last spring break. So I hope so.
That'll be great.